Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Hentges with Beyond the Chart. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, we're going to focus on the Nasdaq this week and look at the daily and weekly chart, and then the semiconductors, which got killed on Thursday. So we'll look at the SMH Semiconductor ETF and 4 semiconductor stocks, so stay tuned. All right, let's start off here with the Nasdaq Composite. The Nasdaq Composite has been weaving out an ending diagonal pattern here, and it's been doing it since the bottom here in February. That's intermediate wave 4 is what I've got down here in the bottom in February. And we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5th wave. I do think there's a high probability this 5th wave is completed up here at about 5,400. The high was 53.98. The close was 53.98. So I'm labeling it as the 5th minor wave of the 5th intermediate wave. Now, we've gotten 3 closes back below the 10 exponential moving average. And usually once you start to see that, especially I'm looking for at least 2 closes, and then you get a break of the low, and you start to get some continuation, and you're starting to get a breakdown. Now, we don't have the 10 crossing below the 21 like we did over here. It's not yet. And the real key that I'm looking for is if it breaks this trend line in here, which is in the 51.50 to 52, depending on how long it takes to come down here. I mean, it could happen in the next couple of days. But I think that will be the first real sign that this whole pattern is breaking down. And then, of course, the next sign will be taking out this low back here of November 4th. So that is the picture on the daily chart. And if you go ahead and look at the weekly chart, it's very similar pattern. And did we close below the 10 on the weekly? 52.96. No, we did not. We're slightly above it. So again, we're watching to see, do we get the breakdown and then the moving average crossover on a weekly chart. But this is the pattern. The pattern is very similar to what we had as a ending diagonal of intermediate wave 3. This was the 5th wave, 5th minor wave of intermediate wave 3. This, on the other hand, is 1 degree higher. This is the 5th intermediate wave at the ending fifth wave pattern of this whole 5-wave impulse cycle coming up from the bottom of March 2009. All right, so that's the picture on the Nasdaq. Let's take a look at the Semiconductor ETF. Now, this has continued to trend up over the last several months. It's been in a very solid trend since February, as has a lot of the market. But now we've got this big break that occurred on Thursday, and we're coming really, really close to this trend line that's in place here over the last 4 to 5 months. And if we break that trend line, I think the next support area is not that far below, 66. But if that doesn't hold, you're going to be down here in the 62.5 to 63 area. I just don't see any other support before we get to that level. Now, if we look at this on a weekly basis, let me turn it into a weekly chart. What you're going to see is that there is significant divergence that's occurring on the demand index. The indicator did not go to a new high on this last move. On DI+, the blue line is the buying. It did not move to a new high. And on the relative strength, and I use the 10-day RSI in here, you can see it's just not confirming this entire move at all. So it keeps thrusting up. It's had 1, 2, the 3rd thrust up, and the indicators are signaling bearish divergence in here. So right now, that's a pretty good sign that this has got a good chance of breaking down, continuing to break down. Of course, the first step is breaking that trend line that I just talked about. All right, that's the Semiconductors ETF. Let's take a look, first of all, at Cirrus Logic. This one dropped 10.3% on Thursday. It was the big loser that I saw of a bunch of semiconductors that were down. Now, it looks like it dropped out of this consolidation area here. Yes, there was support that came in here at 47 back in, when was it, September 12th. So I would say that's the next potential support area. But if that doesn't hold, we got this big gap sitting over here. It's just begging to be closed, and that doesn't get closed until you get to 43. So that's the picture that I see on Cirrus Logic. The next one is Microchip Technology. It was down 7.5% on Thursday. And what I'm seeing on Microchip is that it broke this trend line. And, yeah, we had these 2 points right in here, but it really is giving the picture of the trend line all the way up, since February. So basically most of this year. And now we got a break below it in here. Yeah, there's a little bit of potential support right down in here, and I would think this tried to close the gap over here. It didn't quite do it, so we could come down and be testing this area also, which is a low of 57.52. So it's going to be real interesting to see, just what kind of support we get on MCHP as we get into the 59 to 60 area. So that is the first breakdown that's occurring on Microchip. And then the third one is Qorvo, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. When I look at the daily chart, this isn't quite as clear as I'll show you the weekly chart in a minute, but this does look like a little bit of a topping formation that happened. First of all, it broke this trend line, back in, what was this, August? Yeah, in August. And then it just pulled back and hugged the trend line for several weeks and then pulled away. And then now it kind of formed this topping formation, broke down on that topping out of that on November 4th. Look at the big gap. And so you'd think, well, okay, well, maybe this is like a little head and shoulders pattern of some kind, and it's breaking down. And then what did it do? It just reversed and came up and just closed the gap. It closed the gap here on November 18th and 21st, intraday highs, and now has just rolled back over and rolled back down. Qorvo was down 6.3% on Thursday. When you look at the weekly chart, this is all the trading on it, and the weekly close is the lowest weekly close of the last 6 months. So it's looking pretty weak. Looks like it's trying to roll over in here. And that's the picture. The next support area may be all the way down here at 45. Let me take a look at the daily again. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the next definite where buying came in at 44.45. So right now, it's going to look to see testing this low here at 48.28. The low yesterday was 49.53. So this is interesting. Does look like it is rolling over. And then the last one we're going to take a look at is Qualcomm. And Qualcomm I talked about in a post and video on October 29th. And I talked about how I thought that maybe the top was in for Qualcomm. And that was right back in here. I was seeing bearish divergence, and of course did not see this head and shoulders top yet. It hadn't quite developed. We came down. We came right to this low here and pulled back up. Now I thought maybe this right shoulder might move up a little bit higher than what it did, but it did not. Broke this little trend line and has rolled back down, and Qualcomm dropped almost 6% on Thursday. Now, to me, I think that this little head and shoulders top is confirmed with the fact that it closed below this neckline, which was really about 64.30. Now, yesterday we got a pretty good little snapback rally. What did we do? We pulled back 50% of this 2-day move. Okay, from this high to this low, this pulled back a little over 50%, not quite to 61.8. So I think it was around 55% or so. So now I'm watching for this. What I'm expecting this to do is to continue to come back down. And I think the next support area is going to be right here at 60, where it got support 2 times prior to that. And if that doesn't hold, I mean, the head and shoulders target for this move is right here at 58. And of course, a gap close is slightly below that at 56. So those are the things I'm looking at. And I did get my insider members into puts on this stock on the 29th. That was our entry day on the 29th. So far it's working out very well. One thing I wanted to point out is the weekly chart, which I did talk about back on the 29th. And so it's a little messy. I apologize for that. It's because I'm showing the weekly chart on a daily chart. It's kind of just converted it. But here's this trend line I wanted to just point out to you. We had this huge peak in the 2000 tech blow off, and then we've had this really extended counter trend rally. Did not go to a new high, broke that trend line in 2015, and then we pulled back up right to that trend line twice, and now appear to be topping out and coming back down. So I find that really, really interesting that this entire move from the low here in February to the highs here in September and October is a pullback to that long-term trend line. All right, that's what we're looking at. Let me come back to the daily chart. That's the picture on Qualcomm. And I'll have a link in today's post on my website back to that video, which was on Video and Post. I talked about this on October 29th. All right, everyone, that's it for this weekend. If you're not watching this at my on my website, head on over to the website and check out the other posts I've got for you and the other things on my website. Everyone, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on the next video.